Love listening to the Blue Monday podcast? Well, your support is very much appreciated, and for as long as we're producing this podcast, we'll never charge you to listen to us. But if you do want to join others in supporting us financially, you can do just that via the Acast supporters feature. It's up to you how much or how little you want to give, and there is no regular commitment. Just hit the link in the show description. The money you donate may or may not be put towards Joe Fair's football shirt collection. Terms and conditions apply. Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast, now going into our 6th season, looking into the exciting happenings at Ipswich Town Football Club. My name is Mikey Smith, and with pre-season in full flow, getting some minutes in the legs for us today are Joe Fairs and David Diamond. How are you both?
Good, cheers. Good, thanks Mikey. Yeah, well, thank you.
That's good to hear. And let's start with the good news. We now have 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Which is incredibly exciting. Soon we'll be able to stream live from the YouTube channel and all sorts of other exciting things that I should know about and don't really understand. But yeah, thanks everyone who's subscribed or got their friends to subscribe, or in some cases had 6 email accounts that subscribed. But we're really happy to be at that target, and it also means that we're going to be giving away a brand new Ipswich Town shirt. Do you know when that's being announced, Joe? Going to put you on the spot here.
Well, I know the competition ends on September the 1st, so I presume around that time.
Next week, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. So yeah, the good news is we've got 1,000 subscribers. The bad news is we can't go to any football. Oh, I did that the wrong way around, didn't I? You're still thinking about the bad news, aren't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, 6 seasons of office quotes. You better believe it. I guess we need to doff our caps to Rich Woodward for that. That was a really nicely put together video for that competition, wasn't it?
Yeah, inspired as always. Rich, tech wizard that he is.
Absolutely. And in other news, the club today announced that the iFollow streaming service will be free to all season ticket holders for home games, and it will cost £10 per game for non-season ticket holders, and I think away games and cup games are £10 for everyone. This seems sensible to me, Joe.
Yeah, I think some season ticket holders are a little bit unhappy that basically non-season ticket holders get it cheaper than they do because they're paying for their ticket, aren't they? So like £16 a game. So, and people in the same household, but this seemed a fairly predictable outcome. I think most season ticket holders probably should have realised that they were effectively giving money to a charity for the last few months of last season, the first few months of this season.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, that seems a pretty good move, I guess.
Yeah, and it will give those fans do get to be on their high horse. They're the loyal ones. So they've still got that.
I mean, I haven't really seen Joe would know this. I mean, is there any is there any sort of indication of when fans will be allowed back at all?
They're saying October at the moment, aren't they? So October. I think there's 9,000 season ticket holders.
Yeah.
From what I hear, there might not even be 9,000 people allowed in the ground. So I don't know how that's going to work out. Quite a lot less than 9,000.
Wow.
I'm sure it will be done in a less random way than last year's team selections.
Paul Lambert is in charge of selecting which fans can come to games.
Yeah, how will that work? Well, yeah, something else to. I think that's for a later pod, probably, isn't it? That one.
They should let the younger people in first, shouldn't they, Dave?
Well, yeah, the under 60s. Yeah, totally agree with that.
Cobbled stand will be empty.
Yeah.
So we're recording this on Wednesday night. So we've all had time to digest the West Ham friendly, which took place on Tuesday. Joe, I've tasked you with scribbling down the Ipswich lineup for this one. Which we have. Yeah, can you read for our listeners? Can you read through it, please?
Okay. Well, we lined up 4-3-3, which we have done in every game this pre-season. Thomas Holy in goal, back four, Janoy Donatian, Luke Chambers, Toto Enciala, and Stephen Ward. At midfield three, the academy special of Andre Dezelle, Teddy Bishop, and Flynn Downs. And then a front three of Guion Edwards, Freddie Sears, and Aaron Drynan central.
So not in the squad were Kane Vincent-Young, James Wilson, Caden Jackson, James Norwood, Ollie Hawkins, and perhaps most notably Luke Wolfenden. Before we go into that, Dave, that midfield, do you think that might be close to the one that we start with in our first game against Wigan?
I think I'd like to see it. I've always sort of championed Dezelle, and last season, the boy I think needs a run and needs some confidence and needs some backing. I think from the manager to say, look, I'm going to play you for how many games in September? The first 6 games you're going to play, you're going to start, whatever. And I think he needs something like that. I must admit, I was on a bloody 2-hour conference call yesterday, so I totally missed the game. And by all means, he sort of played that sort of deeper role, didn't he? Behind Downs and Bishop, yeah.
Yep, he did. Yeah, he was the one showing for the ball from the defenders as we were trying to play out from the back, which is his game, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there'd be a lot of people would certainly like to see that midfield start, and more importantly, that midfield be successful. One other point, perhaps I missed this, but did Dobra feature at all yesterday?
No, he didn't.
Right. Okay.
So he might have had
El Mazzuni came on, but not.
No.
Dobra wasn't in the squad.
No. Okay. Yeah. Someone else was missing. Hell of a lot of players out there, really. But anyway.
Lancaster as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, Lancaster.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe Lancaster, Vincent Young. You'd think.
Long-term.
It was Tuesday lunch, wasn't it? So it isn't even as long a break as your usual Saturday, Tuesday. So it's kind of understandable that those two didn't play, and Emmy Hughes, in a similar fashion, didn't play on Saturday and was back in for this one.
Interesting. You mentioned Wolfenden there with any with a one eye on. Oh well, perhaps he's off the pastures new, maybe, or.
Well, yeah. So after the game, Paul Lambert has come out. So Wolfenden, as we mentioned, wasn't in the squad at all. And after the game, Paul Lambert was questioned about this, and he said Wolfenden needs to get going and start performing. Then this morning, Wolfenden tweeted and then later deleted a confused face GIF on Twitter, like a what?
And also in the world of celebrity gossip, he also liked a tweet from Stuart Watson saying how he's confused as to why Lambert was making these remarks about him, and then unliked the same tweet later that day.
Didn't even see that one. So yeah, maybe a little bit of immaturity from Wolfenden there.
Yeah, maybe.
But let's cast our mind back just over a year ago. Lambert said something similar about him on the eve of last season, didn't he, Joe?
Yeah, it was along the lines how he just sort of is so laid back. He sometimes needs a bit of a kick up the backside. And Wolfenden did have some comments himself in January where he said he came back to the club from Swindon. No one was talking to him. No one was saying anything to him. He went on the pre-season tour and he said he just coasted through it because he didn't really know if he was going to be playing, if he was going back out on loan or anything. So maybe it seems a bit of a communication issue that he needs to be spoken to a bit more. Maybe this is Lambert trying to give him a kick up the backside again, but I thought he'd been fine in our pre-season friendly so far. So I was a bit surprised to hear it personally.
Yeah, I thought he didn't impress me too much, considering he is our sort of go-to centre-back that can receive the ball off the goalkeeper. But he's so crucial to how we're going to play. I mean, even if we're not playing out from the back, Dave, he is arguably our best centre-back, is he not?
Well, you say our best centre-back. He's certainly the most accomplished on the ball, let's say. I think leave it at that, probably. But yeah, he's certainly the most accomplished on the ball. Looks comfortable, and yeah, you think if he's focused, if he's strong, and if he's focused, and he's a player that's obviously you'd think destined to play at a higher level for sure, whether it be with us or hopefully with us.
And Joe, just before we move on to the game, where do you stand on players airing their dirty laundry, albeit as subtly as he might think he did it?
Well, at the end of the day, it's 2020 now, and these boys have grown up with social media accounts from when they're 12, 13, 14 years old. So
they should be better at it, right?
Yeah, but also things are going to happen on social media now. They are going to take to it, and it's not like he's gone out there and had a massive go. He's put a bit of a sub-tweet out there, as it's known as, and sort of had a little bit of a sort of a deniable dig, if that makes sense. If someone was to question him about it, he could easily have plausible deniability about it. So he's smart enough to know not to say anything ridiculous, but social media is a part of the game.
And just on social media, actually, Ainsley Maitland-Niles is being linked with a 20 million plus move to Wolves. When he was on loan at Ipswich and he was left on the bench at Bolton, he was liking pictures of scantily clad women on Instagram from the bench. So Wolfenden,
nothing wrong with that.
during the game.
Oh,
yeah, it was during the game, Dave.
And it
was a Mick McCarthy game, wasn't it? Though, so
it was. Some
of those were instantly forgettable.
Yeah, exactly. And his mother was quite outspoken, if I remember as well, wasn't she?
yeah, just a little bit. So yeah, we'll talk briefly on the West Ham lineup. Obviously, Aaron Cresswell returns Portman Road. It seems like he's done that a few times now in these friendlies. Yarmolenko was also included. Jack Wilshere was in central midfield. Sebastian Haller played up front. David Moyes was in the dugout, despite West Ham also playing at Championship side Wickham at the same time.
Good.
We more than held our own in that first half, don't you think, Joe?
Yeah, we did give away a couple of decent chances to that Haller, but the goal was the ball had gone off the pitch when they scored the goal.
I saw that miles off,
and everyone stopped. But like I say, we passed about nicely. I thought, especially the midfield three, they looked really. Even Andre, who sometimes doesn't, they all looked really mobile as midfield three as well. Sort of worked well. They cover each other quite well. When Andre drifts up, Flynn will drop back, and I'd say that they do seem a real natural connection between those three in the midfield.
Didn't you say first half on the WhatsApp, because I was trying to follow it during my call on the WhatsApp, and you said that Downs was like
you thought we were losing 1-0 when we were 4-1 down.
I thought it was 1-1. I was trying to follow everything. I think I missed the crucial. Well, it's probably 4 goals. Well, spoiler alert, it's like 4 goals in 5 minutes. I just couldn't keep up with it, I don't think. And Joe said that first half, Downs was a bloody monster when he said at times.
Yeah, I think that was Craig, but yeah, he was just.
Oh, Craig, sorry.
He just at one point he lost the ball and he just bullied his way back, and it looked like one of those performances where you see a player and he's far too good for us, and it's like one where the manager of the opposition team surely watches it and thinks, "Who is this guy? We need to have a proper look at him." Because he did look, like I say, he did just look a different level, just physically. I think that's the difference you notice with the Premier League players, how physical they are, strong, quick, athletic, and he just looks like he's got that athleticism required to play at that level.
He started to eat up the ground a little bit more, to use a football cliche. When he first came into the side, I think we played away at QPR. I remember thinking he looks a little bit slow for a youngster.
Treading water a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, but
it's all part of
now
he
really covers the ground well. And just a note on Dazelle as well. He did crunch into a couple of tackles as well. And I was fine with Dazelle as long as he's getting on the ball. He is generally pretty good, isn't he? But there's just too many games where, I mean, we're talking about last season now, not during pre-season. So he's got a clean slate near enough this season. But there was quite a few games last year where he got thrown in and you never really saw him on the ball. But yeah, as Joe mentioned, he does seem to connect really well with Bishop and Downs, and it looked like they were really enjoying the challenge up against Wilshere and the likes.
If we're successful, if we are successful this season, and that is our midfield, it'll be a nice, good season to watch. I think it'd be really quite unfortunate we can't, but you know what I mean. It'll be a season of nice football, because those three. I think many people would like to see whether experience enough. But then you look at Bishop, barely played any bloody football. How old's Bishop now, Joe?
24.
Barely play the boy, so I'd love to see us start with that 3, but.
I think it's just it's so important to see who is going. If we are going to try and play out from the back, which all indications say that we are, who are we going to sit in front of the defence? Is it going to be Cole Scouse as a stopper, or is it going to be Andre Dazelle as a playmaker? Well, I'd rather see Dazelle there. Mate, it might be horses for courses a little way.
Exactly.
Away from home in tough games against the Fleetwood, your Portsmouth. Yeah, maybe you want to see Scouse there. Was it a bit of protection?
Was it as obvious as the other season, like that ridiculous Lambert game at Reading when the fullbacks just went every time Bart got the ball? I mean, was it as obvious as that, or not quite so?
Not quite as
bad. I mean, it's different now because the players can gather the ball from inside the penalty area.
So
it does look slightly different.
Of course. Yeah. Okay.
And personally, just on that, we're obviously going to get into it in a second. Where I stand on the playing out from the back is you do have to. It's too easy to say you should know when to do it and when you shouldn't, because at the moment we're just trying to practice it. Was that West Ham are used to playing against that sort of playing out from the back, so their strikers are switched onto it. They know where to stand and they know how to make it difficult, and Tottenham did as well. It's unlikely that League One clubs will be quite so good at it, and we should be able to pass through a little bit more. But we obviously don't have to do it every single time. And if we don't have the players out there to do it, and if we're playing on bad pitches, it probably makes sense sometimes to just play safe. But
sort of drifting back to the Spurs game, by the end of that, or end of the half, because it was too harsh for us, Cornell, he'd been caught out early with it, but ultimately he tried to pass an excuse, got robbed by Højbjerg, who came through under Pep Guardiola at Bayern Munich and was sort of the next big hope there, and sort of Dele Alli, Lucas Moura and Son leading the press. It's quite a hard one to play through, but even by the end of that, Cornell was clipping balls to the full-back, sort of waiting for the press to come and sort of going short when he needed to, or just clipping it over the full-backs' heads, over the press's head to the full-backs and things. So we were getting better at it as the game went on. So I'm not too unhappy with it.
I think this was touched on yesterday, and probably we'll get to it. But I think this could have been you again. Sorry, again on the WhatsApp group yesterday that if as Mikey sort of said, playing on away at Rochdale on a Tuesday night and the pitch is bumpy and it's horrible and it's wet and you're trying to play this pretty football. Again, you sometimes do need to be direct, and then what you do need is a focal point up front for the plan B. And obviously, we've yet to see the lad from Portsmouth in action yet, haven't we?
No, not yet. But it is. We'll get on to talking about. It's a good plan B to have, and something that we were crying out for last season, isn't it? So we'll move into the second half and a few minutes of absolute madness that we've already touched upon. Can you pick the bones out of this for us, Joe? Can you try and make sense of it?
Well, the second goal we concede is just one where they're just a bit better than us, just passing it around, and we get a really good goal straight back through sort of Freddie Sears, good break by Emir Hughes. It's like, actually, game on, and then Holy has a real sort of shocking moment where he comes for a cross but pulls out of it. So I don't know whether he just misjudged it or whatever, but it's poor. And then obviously Chambers has his absolute sort of shocker at the back, but I don't know whether. Because we obviously conceded, but we changed our whole midfield. So we took Dazelle, Bishop and Downs off and replaced them with Nolan, Judge and Hughes. And within 4 minutes, we'd scored one but conceded 3 goals. So I don't know whether it was just a case that that big change in personnel didn't help, where obviously like Chambers is the one that's going to get the most criticism and highlighted. And rightly so, because it was a poor error. But he's... sort of Nolan rolls the ball back to him, and then there isn't the ball, which Dazelle had been that ball for the last hour. So he, at that point, should make the decision to put his foot through it, and he gets caught and gives away a goal. But like Cornell's on Saturday, best be making those mistakes now than sort of when the real action starts.
And first game of the season against Sunderland at home. Yeah, you're right. Their second goal, I've got to say, their second goal was a really nice goal. That showed the golfing class, really, when they sort of turned it on. That's a really, really good goal. Sort of just crisp passing across the face of the box. Good ball in, and very good goal, that one. Yeah. I didn't realise that Haller actually, I picked up on this earlier, Haller played and scored for Utrecht, didn't he, in the pre-season friendly about 5 years ago?
Yeah, Brenner mentioned that on the commentary. But...
Oh, did he?
Yeah, right at the start. But he's like a £45 million signing as well, isn't he?
He didn't really do it last season at all. I mean, you see some of the West Ham tweets that, he's a hat-trick, and then someone put it in the context. Was
Founders level.
Ipswich away. Look at the centre-halves, look at the centre-backs. Yeah. But, I think they got high hopes. But a lot of that team, obviously he wasn't there, a lot of that team, Wilshere, Cresswell, a lot of it, Yarmolenko, Anderson, played in the pre-season friendly a couple of seasons ago, I think, when Hurst's first game. at Portman Road.
And yeah, it was pretty impressive stuff from West Ham's attacking players, Dave. What about ours? Freddie Sears and Emma Hughes linking up pretty well for our goal.
Yeah, it's really good from Hughes. Really, really positive play, wasn't it? I mean, from what the camera angle looked like, he sort of dropped his shoulder. It looked like maybe had a touch of fortune there, maybe doing him down a bit. But he surely hadn't really been on that long, had he? Before that sort of run, had he been on?
No, he came on at half time, and the goal was in about the 53rd minute.
53rd, yeah. So yeah, all very positive. Well finished by Sears. I mean, only a friendly, but I'm sure he would have enjoyed it against his old team. How did just out of interest, how did Cresswell look? Just sort of solid, fairly easy, sort of solid, good, always dynamite left foot as usual.
Yeah, I mean, I have heard criticisms of Cresswell in recent times from West Ham fans, but he didn't get forward too much, but he defended well. He had Edwards running into blind alleys quite a lot. I still think Edwards does look a lot better out on the left. But yeah, he was fine, fairly quiet. Yeah. How did you see it, Joe?
Yes, similar really. I thought he did well, and sort of did whip a couple of balls in, but it was sort of good to see him back. I suppose the West Ham fans probably a little bit bored of him almost. He's been there 5 years. Players don't hang around for that long, unless obviously you've got Mark Noble that's been there for years. But
I think it might be a similar case. It might be comparable to Cole Skews, where everyone liked him when he came in, and now he's been around for quite a long time and they haven't really had any success. Certainly, so he's maybe a little bit of a scapegoat.
Certainly, Cresswell was like first full season there. He was like hammer of the year and all sorts. Wasn't he? He had really good. He played once for England. Have I got that right? I'm sure he played once for England, didn't he? Yeah, he did.
Well, last season he scored the winner against Manchester United at home and the winner at Chelsea away.
Did he really?
So, I mean, as far as scapegoats go, for your left back, he's not too bad, is he? Really?
He's done really well. He's done really well, hasn't he?
He has. He's had a great career. Here. What a signing from Paul Jewell. We have to give credit.
Absolutely, I love Cresswell. Yeah, he looked quality pretty much right from the start, didn't he? Fond memories that goal at that mad game against Palace that night.
That was just similar, like clutch of goals to the West Ham.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Different circumstances.
Yeah, slightly.
So yeah, 4-1 defeat. I mean, I want to say we didn't disgrace ourselves, but we actually did disgrace ourselves, but only for a few minutes. Lambert spoke after the game. I think he was questioned on if he had the right players to be playing out from the back. I always find it interesting that he refers to Luke Chambers as Luke Chambers. Never Luke, never Chambo. He always full names him. Maybe I'm looking too much into that. But what did he make of his comments on the style, Joe? He was pretty quick to shoot down the idea that we're playing a new style. He said that we're playing the style that we played when I first came in.
Well, he's correct in that we are playing the style we played when he first came in, but we've played a lot of different styles or non-styles since then for a long period of time. We didn't try and play through the thirds at all last season. I think we set up to be a counter-attacking team, and we just, passing wise, we just knocked it around in sort of quiet areas and had a lot of possession without really doing anything with it, without moving the ball quickly, without looking to break the lines or anything like that. So I think he's overly defensive with his comment, but I was glad that he was willing to stand up for the style of football that he is trying to implement. And it's not the style of football everyone wants, but a lot of Ipswich Town fans have been crying out for some consistency in style, selection, formation, personnel, and he's given it to us at the moment, and he's doing this. And like I say, if you want consistency, you can't then moan that it's the wrong sort of consistency. It's he's either doing that or he's not. If he'd have said, I'm going to set up 4-4-2, get a big man, a little man, and start knocking the ball long at every opportunity, well, at least we'd know what the plan is. At least we know what we're doing. And at the moment, I think every player knows what they're doing. Some are struggling with it a little bit more than others, it seems. But it's going to be teething problems, and there's going to be issues. And I think it's good to crack on with it. But ultimately, we've played League 2 Colchester, beat them 5-0 or 4-0 and 1-0, and we've lost to Premier League West Ham and Premier League Tottenham. I think we're playing Cambridge on Saturday and Bristol Rovers in the Cup the Saturday after. Well, that's what we judged on. We're not going to, like I say, we get impressed by some of the best players in the world at the moment.
Yeah, you got to put it in the context.
Sorry, Dave. Do you think part of the motivation for reverting to this style might be to try and get teams to try and press us a little bit more, so we can get up the pitch quicker with the ball?
Suck them in. Yeah, maybe so. As Joe said last year, there was, he calls it identity. The managers call it, football with an identity, and he's right. It was so, we passed the ball, and there was, we saw the passing stats. I say, well, stats don't lie. Well, to a degree they did, because we passed the ball in just safe areas, didn't we? It was almost embarrassing at some points where we should have been more direct, and we just weren't. So, look, I'm all for it, but I think just harping back to what we said earlier, if we are going to play that way, then I think Wolfenden is quite a sort of will be a key part of that, I would have thought.
Yeah, okay, so we've got the players who can break the lines.
Yeah, definitely. And Dazelle, but then again, harking back to what Joe said, I think Joe's right. Horses for courses. Dazelle, certain games may be skews, in others perhaps.
I've seen quite a few people suggesting that the midfield three should be Emir Hughes instead of Dazelle. But if Dazelle's playing that deep of the midfield three role, does that suit Emir Hughes for you, Joe? Or do you think that he's slightly better a little bit further forward or to the left?
Yeah, I think if you were going to bring Hughes in for Dazelle, you'd probably put Downs at the base of the diamond just because he can cover the pitch defensively. Obviously, you lose a bit of his ability going box to box, but then with Bishop and Hughes in front of him, then you've got two players that can get box to box, that can create things, score goals. So that's probably, if those three there, the balance would be Downs sitting.
Yeah, you wouldn't see, for instance, you spoke about comparing Hughes with Dazelle. I mean, you wouldn't see Dazelle, for instance, make the run that Hughes did yesterday to provide the assist for Sears. You just wouldn't. That's not his game, is it?
No. I actually think that Paul Lambert might have misdiagnosed Emir Hughes as a player, because I remember when he was out the whole time when
kind of forgotten
in Lambert's first season. He kept saying, he's a player that I've always liked, and he has a great range of passing. I'm not sure a range of passing is really Emir Hughes' main strength at all. I think what's good about him is that he can drive forward with the ball, and he's quite a physical presence in the middle, and he breaks into the box. But hopefully he's starting to understand more what sort of player Emir Hughes is.
I mean, one of the guys in the WhatsApp mentioned, I mean, when you look at our potential, we've got an absolute plethora of players in midfield, haven't we? You could easily step up and should be more than capable of holding their own at League One level, or certainly above that, you'd think. At the moment, bloody hell, that's one area where we really are almost spoilt for choice. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops.
Cool. So we'll quickly talk about the Tottenham game and the Colchester game, but not in as much detail. I mean, it's almost in the distant past now, and they weren't proper games of football in a way, were they? With us playing two shorter matches at Colchester and then changing the whole team at half-time at Spurs. But Joe, can you talk us through who played the first half against Spurs?
So it was a split team. So Cornell was in goal, back four of Vincent Young, Enciala, Wolfenden, Stephen Ward, midfield three of Cole Skuse, Teddy Bishop and Alan Judge, and then a front three of Dobra, Drinnan and Edwards.
And it was a similar story for large parts, wasn't it, Dave, to the West Ham game, with us playing some nice stuff, but not really creating too much and getting
safe areas. I mean, look, you mentioned that the Spurs forward line, the Spurs front three, which, as you say, is world class, frightening. Lucas Moura, Dele Alli, and I mean, Son, for goodness sake. So it was an experience for the players. I mean, it's just a shame. If you had pre-season friendly like that, and none of us could, we'd have loved it. Would have been, wouldn't we? Each and probably every one of us, given the chance, would have loved it. So going just to, I don't know. Have you've probably been there, Joe? Have you been there yet? Or
Yeah,
Mike,
I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah, Joe doesn't like to mention it, but he was there for a Champions League game last season.
It's just amazing, and just looks unbelievable place. So
Yeah,
that's
stadium.
and even I think Kane Vincent-Young on the eve of the game say how excited the players were. Even the players were, just being given the chance. Obviously for him, he was a Spurs youngster, but that can only do, certainly the younger players. That can only, okay, pre-season friendly, but that can only, what a great experience for them, really.
Right, so they're slightly different friendly before that, and slightly different streaming service, Colchester United. Just on the streaming services, with the Colchester one, we were just happy to be able to see the game because it was sort of cobbled together last minute. The Tottenham one was very, very slick and
that was
impressive.
Steve Wilson
on commentary. They had a presenter with Clive Allen before the game and at half-time and post-match, and they had interviews with the players afterwards as well. We're not expecting that, but are we expecting what we had at the West Ham game, Joe, with the streaming service, or are we going to expect what we had at Colchester with a bumbling commentator and...
No, because I've watched quite a few games on iFollow last year, and it's generally the sort of 4 or 5 cameras, replays with the radio stuff at commentary, which suits me. I think that's fine. I think it was a little bit. The coverage yesterday wasn't as good as some of the other ones have been, because it almost seemed like maybe there wasn't a sort of editor or producer sort of properly. It was just being recorded with the odd replay. There wasn't actually there would have been an assistant producer sat with an editor, and part of their job is to say when to roll the replay, and apparently it is really, really difficult. And as it's pre-season, it's probably someone that's new to the job that was doing it and was just messing it up a little bit, but you can tell if the person doing that job understands football or whether they can't by when they decide to play the replays. But it is literally somebody sitting next to an editor and saying, roll the replay now.
Well, playing sort of the replay when there's a free kick on the edge of the box or something.
And all of this iFollow stuff, by the way, is powered just underneath where the refs do all the VAR stuff.
Stockley Park.
At Stockley Park, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Trade secret.
Yeah, I mean it's also where I work, and that's how I know about it. But yeah,
inside knowledge.
Aside from it was our first look at the new old system, did we learn much from the Colchester game? And Aaron Drinan scored a couple of goals. Did he maybe think that? Are the opposition that he's going to be playing against closer to the West Ham defenders or the Colchester defenders? I guess is what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's difficult because Colchester probably don't have enough depth to name to have 22 players of a decent level. That they're going to be having sort of a first team squad of sort of 16, 17 and supplementing it with youngsters. So I think that maybe the format of the 2 games may have stretched their squads a little bit. And when you compare it to our squad and the size of squad we have, then it was always going to be a bit of a mismatch.
Tommy Smith obviously showed up well, did enough to get a contract.
If football was done like this in League One and he had to name a different team in the second half, we'd walk the league, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Well, bloated squad.
Yeah. I think you'll see a few going out, don't you think, Joe?
Yes, but I don't see where or how, because the players you want to get rid of, I don't see. Unless you're going to pay them up, which I don't really see the point of paying them up to strengthen a rival. But we'll see.
Yeah, we have a question on that actually from Mullet. Let's move into the Twitter questions now. Obviously, in an ideal world, somebody would come in for a couple of our surplus, or to call them surplus senior players is maybe a bit much, but the players that are very much on the fringes of the squad. That's probably not going to happen. But Mullet asks, are we better off loaning out the youngsters such as Ndaba, McGavin, Wright, etc., rather than using them in a handful of cup games? He also says this year is promotion or years of more decline, isn't it?
probably. And I was going to make a point about Ndaba, Joe. He's sort of showed up reasonably well when he's been playing, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's had a really good pre-season in that he's looked good on the ball, which is probably the main thing we've seen from our defenders or not seen from our defenders at the moment, that they're being tested on the ball. But he is one, like I know people are sort of calling for him to start, but he's one for me that needs a stint in men's football, because he had 2 loan spells last season. Both he failed at both. In effect, he got sent back. Oh well, he went to Chelsea, didn't play a game there. He was just on the bench, didn't get in the team. He went to Hemel Hempstead, played a game, got taken off at half time, and then effectively sent back. He didn't play again after that. So when you compare him to Wolfie, who went to Bromley in the National League, who played 20 odd games there, then 30 odd games for Swindon, I think
it's tough.
It's like pre-season is one thing when you're getting the ball and you're passing it about, but ultimately when it comes down to it, and you got, like I say, you're playing Fleetwood and you got Ched Evans and Paddy Madden smashing into you, then I'd say.
I mean, is it a physicality thing with him? It's not. He's a big lad, and he's a sort of not.
Yeah, I think it's just the.
Is he left-footed, Joe?
Yeah, he's left-footed.
I thought. Yeah.
But he joined the club as a midfielder, and I think he played for sort of Republic of Ireland as a youth as a midfielder. So it's still a relatively new position for him. But I think they've seen that he's got the athleticism, the physicality. He looks like a defender.
Was it beginning of last season, or at some point last season, where Lambert was talking him up for his debut, and it never happened? Or was that even the season before?
It was the end of the season before, the end of the relegation season.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He was Lambert basically said he was going to have his debut, and then we had 223 games, and he played really poorly in both of them, and then it was just cut out of it. So I'd say he's a hard one to judge, because like I say, it's a real shame he didn't get a good run at one of these loan clubs last year and actually play some men's football, because I do think it's going to be a very different game. And while someone like Chambers has maybe struggled this pre-season, you expect him to be a different game when he's got strikers running into him and he's got a battle, where Ndaba's looked good in pre-season, but it could go totally the other way.
I mean, you'd think the other two, Mikey, certainly Harry Wright, you would think would benefit, wouldn't he? I mean, he's got clearly 3 goalkeepers ahead of him in the pecking order now. Pichek and obviously Cornell and Holy and Brett McGavin. Probably the same. I mean, was it Wickham he started against last season? Was it Wickham? Was that his debut? Or Fleetwood?
Peterborough, was it? McGavin, Fleetwood, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Fleetwood, wasn't it? Yeah,
he went off at half time. Yeah,
both of those that was a bizarre one, wasn't it? He just came out of nowhere there. So again, someone else you would think, again, with the sort of midfield talent that we've got there, and all touchwood seemingly fully fit, that you would think benefit from a stint somewhere.
Just on Harry Wright, if Kieran Dyer was Ipswich manager, he said he'd start Harry Wright in goal.
Wow.
And that was last season. So I
haven't seen much of him, Joe. I haven't really seen. You clearly have.
He did well against Colchester the other night, but I think there's this thing. He's got really good distribution because he hammers it about. But against Colchester, I thought like 3 or 4 times he just kicked it straight to the opposition, sort of scuffed kicks. Left footed. Yeah. I think I can't remember. I'd say, but just sort of hit a few kicks straight to the opposition. But he's a sort of more modern keeper where he likes to use his feet. But again, like he's desperate for a loan, because he's not the biggest keeper, and he really needs to get down in the non-leagues and have some big strikers stand on his toes at corners and show that he's got what it takes to win those physical battles.
Absolutely. Someone that can win those physical battles is Emma Hughes. I think we've kind of already answered this one, but Andrew at Run Fat Boy Run has said, Emma Hughes has said it's a big year for him. What do you see his role being this year? He'd start him in the midfield 3 alongside Downs and Bishop. We've talked about that being an alternative, but Hughes probably wouldn't be the pivot.
No,
he's box to box. I would say.
So would he then move Downs into that? I
would have thought so, because Bishop is certainly more of an advanced player, isn't he, than the two. Look, if you have the player that Hughes when he first came here on loan, and then when he, you remember the Villa game away, the Newcastle game at home. I mean, long time ago. Now 3 seasons, for Christ's sake. You forget this. Again, missed a hell of a lot of football. But if he, we've said this all along, if a player like that can get anywhere near back to that level, I mean, he's going to be, or you probably think any half decent season is going to walk into the League One Team of the Year, for Christ's sake. He's potentially that good, but again, just needs consistency and injury, another injury-free one.
Yeah. But it wouldn't be a podcast without an Emma Hughes question, would it?
It wouldn't really, no.
Right, let's do the Luke Chambers questions. So Adam Flat. Well, this is quite interesting because I'm obviously sat on the fence here because I'm hosting. Joe, you're a big Luke Chambers fan, and Dave, you are not entirely convinced by 34-year-old Luke Chambers.
It's fair to say that, yeah.
Yeah. So Adam Flat asks, so he makes a statement, sorry. Appreciate the calibre of opposition, but we've conceded some pretty shit goals this season, pre-season even. It's Wolfenden plus another for me. Thoughts on this? So we'll start with you, Dave. I'm putting you on the spot here. Would you
it's going to be,
it's
okay. So it's
going
to be, but who at the moment? Who? So we've already said, as Joe said, and Dab are probably not ready. James Wilson hasn't featured, I don't think. Joe, what's the thing with him?
Injured.
Yeah.
And who are you going to start? Yeah, okay. We're saying a Wolfenden. If we're going to play this, if we're going to play it from the back, I think we all agree Wolfenden's got to play. Who else is going to play there? Pretty much at this moment in time, it's got to be Chambers, hasn't it? There's no one.
Well, I think we know what Joe's answer is.
We're thin on the ground. We've said this before. Centre halves, we really are thin on thin on the ground, aren't we?
So I'll move to the next question that's still on Luke Chambers, and this is from his namesake, Luke Penning. Do you still think Chambers is a nailed-on starter in this system and formation? Doesn't look comfortable playing from the back. I know it's West Ham, but we've seen a similar thing happen last season. Joe, is he still a nailed-on starter, not just for you, but for Paul Lambert?
Well, at the moment, I can't see anyone else starting ahead of him. And I'd say personally, at the moment, I'd say we've got one ball-playing defender in Wolfenden, and we've got 3 stoppers in Chambers, Enciala, and Wilson. Personally, I'd want to get rid of those 3, and I think Enciala's the most obvious one who is probably going to go. And you replace Enciala with a ball player, preferably a left-sided ball-playing defender, and then you've got the options. You've got your 2 ball players, you've got your 2 stoppers, and whether it's horses for courses or you play it, but ultimately Chambers is better than Wilson. He's better than Enciala, so he's going to play. But I do think there was I was looking at some stats earlier today, and I do think there's a bit of a overreaction to some of our fans with regards to the defence last season. It seems that defence was blamed.
Yeah, you've made this point before, haven't you? Because it was the lack of goals that killed us in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I looked, and basically, as a club, we kept 13 clean sheets, which was 36% of our games. Only four clubs were better than us in clean sheets: Gillingham, Oxford, Coventry, and Peterborough. But failing to score, we also failed to score in 13 games last year, and only 4 sides with a worse record than that: Tranmere, Shrewsbury, Bristol Rovers, and Bolton. So you think teams like Southend were scored in more games than we did last year? And then when we in games where we scored the first goal, we scored the first goal in the game 14 times. Out of those 14 games, we won 11 and drew 3. And when we conceded the first goal, which was 15 times, we won 3 and lost 12.
Wow.
So the 3 we won was AFC Wimbledon at the start of the season.
Yeah.
And Burton, I think we let in an early goal and then won 4-1, and then Tranmere away. So 2 of the sort of bottom clubs. So when you look at it that way, basically the defence, if the defence were given anything to protect, they were able to protect it. If the defence asked the attack to try and get them out of a hole after conceding the goal, the attack was never able to do it. So whilst like I say, like Chambers is 34, he's 35 soon. He's getting to the end of his career. Ultimately, defensively, we were fine last year, and that was in a defence which had Luke Garbutt at fullback, who's not really a defender, Gwian Edwards at fullback quite often, sort of a revolving door in midfielders in front of them. So I just don't see that. I just don't see that Chambers is a particularly big issue in the grand scheme of things, other than the fact that he's 35 and there doesn't seem to be a replacement for him in the squad unless Ndaba can go and do something. So that's the bigger issue for me, that we've signed Enciala for the best part of £1 million. We've picked up James Wilson, and neither of them have been able to challenge Chambers at all.
Yeah, apologies. Totally forgot about NCR. but again, on the point I made about Ndaba, again, I was reading that perhaps people have said that when NCR has played so far in these preseason games, he hasn't done too badly by all accounts.
No,
he's been fine, but it's it's like watching the clown spinning all of the plates.
Yeah.
Like it is quite fun to watch when it isn't going wrong. But
quite like watching him.
You're wondering how it's staying together sometimes.
Yeah. But even like for pre-season this year, without sort of going on about Chambers too much, like we talk, Chambers had a really poor pre-season. Well, against Colchester, he was part of the team that won 1-0. Against Spurs, he played the second half where we didn't concede, and then he struggled yesterday against West Ham. But it's not like Wolfie was at the back against Spurs when we conceded 3 goals. So maybe that's why Lambert's given him a bit of stick.
So it's one mistake, really, isn't it? It's going to be jumped on and magnified, as you said, all over social media and Twitter. You know, he gets the ball yesterday, no option. He just shifts the ball onto his right foot and just goes long. You know, who's going to, no problem. But there you go. Yeah,
I just wonder when it comes to the start of the season, like while it's fine to have ball players, we are going to need to have some defensive nous back there, aren't we? And obviously Ward is going to help with that as well. And it seemed very obvious.
We haven't really talked about him yet. But he looked pretty assured again yesterday, and is a very vocal player. There's some people suggesting that now we have Ward, do we need Chambers? But it's a completely different position, isn't it? And
I also think Lambert was trying to bring, when you took the players we were linked with, Ward, Keogh, Danny Graham, we were looking to bring some experience into this squad. And whether that is to replace Chambers or is that to supplement him, because Scouse is not really a vocal player, even though he's one of the senior players. And we'll see. But I say, I'd personally, all things being equal, I'd like to sign a 26, 27-year-old left-footed centre-back that can push Chambers and by the end of this season be first choice, or at some point in this season take over and become first choice alongside Wolfenden. I think that's what every town fan wants.
That's a good point you make about experience, because I've already said we've got a wealth of midfield and young midfield talent there. You'd think out of our experienced players for the last few seasons, i.e. the two, Skews and Chambers, it would be Skews that will more than likely miss out if given the midfield talent that we could put out there, rather than, as you quite correctly said, Chambers, given the scant amount of centre backs we've got. So
I'd be interested if you spoke to Luke Wolfenden and asked him who he wants to play with out of those players, who's he going to pick?
Yeah, you would think so.
His mate Corin Darber. Ben Chaplin asks, he asked a couple of questions, but I'll just pick one out here. Does Paul Lambert need to devise a system to fit the players, or look for the players to match the system?
Wow, he's had long enough now, hasn't he? I think he's got to find the players to match the system effectively. We've got players to match any system really in the squad. So I know there's an issue about a ball playing centre back, but you don't get many ball playing centre backs who can also defend in League One. Like I say, we've got Luke Wolfenden, and we've only got him because he's come through the academy.
Yeah, if they're like unicorns.
If we wanted to buy one of them, they wouldn't be coming to us. They'd be going to the Championship or the Premier League. So, but like I say, we've got a style. But like Barrow came out of the conference playing this style of football. So you can find the players, and it's just about giving the players the confidence to play this way. And like I say, Lambert has done that publicly by backing the players when they've made mistakes.
Absolutely. Mark Beck, who I believe has just started his own Ipswich Town podcast. So if you go onto his Twitter profile, you'll be able to see a link for that, I'm sure. It might be a YouTube thing, actually.
His podcast, ITFC Unrestricted.
Okay. Thanks for that, Joe. You dug me out of a hole. As self-confessed Dazelle sympathisers, so I'm guessing that's aimed at you two, where do you see Andre's best position in the midfield three? But more crucially, where do you see Lambert using him? He likes him in the base of the three. I think we've covered this, haven't we? That's exactly where you two like him.
Yep.
Playing as the pivot would be Mark Beck's choice. I think we're all in agreement that Joe's told us for years that is his best position. You haven't necessarily said that they must play him, but you've been saying if he does play, that's where he's best. And I think the penny might have dropped now with Paul Lambert, and he might have realised that it's time to start playing him there rather than out wide or further forward.
But like I said, he's got to stick with him. He's got to give the boy a run. If he's gonna play him in that pivot role, he's got to, like I said, give him the opportunity. You know, it's going to be because of that role. Yes, it's going to be games, but because he's got that range of pass, and he's going to try passes that no one else in that midfield will play, and some of them will come off and some of them won't. But it's important that you keep faith with the boy. He keeps his head up, keeps confident. And look, I love watching him play. I just like his style. He's so languid. He's like his father in a lot of ways. Plays like his father. Just a really, really out and out good footballer. So I really want him to
There
do.
it is.
There he is. There he is. I really want him to. I so want him to do well. And it's just, who knows how he would have kicked on if he didn't have that injury. What Christ, how many's that? 3 seasons ago? 3 or 2? Who knows where would have been now?
But he looks a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and
filled out a
seems to
bit.
have added a little bit of bite. But
He was getting about the pitch better, I thought.
Yeah, he does seem to cover the ground.
But like,
I think it'd be fair to say that Emmy Hughes is probably most people's if it isn't that midfield 3, they want Hughes in there, but perhaps we should be looking at Hughes being the Bishop replacement should he get injured or lose form, rather than being the Dazelle replacement.
And I think transfer window still there is. I mean, we haven't really heard too much about, dare I say it, Flynn Downs and interest there. There was apparent interest, but that seems to have gone decidedly quiet at the moment, Joe.
Yeah, and hopefully it will stay quiet.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm not tempting fate. Sorry, everyone out there. Yeah,
but like, so
done it now.
Just going back to Dazelle's position, if you think back to when he got that injury, that's Mick McCarthy on the first day of the season, Mr. Pragmatic. Mick McCarthy,
confidence in him.
Gave Andre that role, sitting at the back forward, going and taking the ball off the defence and getting us playing. He'd never ever entrusted that role to anyone else in his whole time as manager here, and he gave that role to a 17, 18-year-old Dazelle on the first day of the season to go and play that way. And like I say, I know Mick is somebody that splits opinion amongst the ITFC fan base, and people think his style of football is just pure long ball, but he was just a pragmatist that would play the way he needed to play to get results, and he was willing to let Andre go and get the ball off the centre backs and play, and that is a massive feather in your cap really for a manager of that calibre to let you do that. And if Lambert will give sort of Dazelle that role and sort of, like Dave says, give him 6-8 games to get started, then hopefully we'll reap the benefits. It's Andre's last year of his contract, and
big season.
If he walks away from this club without having had a run of games in it, I think there's a massive failing of the club.
Yeah. Agree.
FPL Tractor asks, if a championship club bid 1 million for Jackson, would you take it? As he doubts he'll be first choice in our formation. He said he'd be tempted.
What's his contract?
Because that would be a loss. That would be a loss on
2 years
Jackson
left
as well.
2 years left. We're all very. I think he splits opinion because he's got such raw, out and out pace. Which
I don't think we want to lose that for the sake of 1 million. Whether he is first choice or not, I don't think
I would have him around.
I don't think we can lose Jackson's pace, especially if Plan B is going to be playing a big man.
Yeah.
Because Jackson will probably work quite well alongside a big man.
I think we've got to persevere with it.
James Houston has a more general League One question. I'll go to Joe for this one. Who will be the surprise package in League One this season, and what's the best Ipswich can hope for?
I think surprise package in League One. I think Swindon are going to do a good job, because everything I see and hear from Richie Wellens, it seems a pretty impressive guy, and they've come up as, were they champions in the end? I think they came up as, or was that Crew? Or I think they might have been champions, but they came up, and I think they're a team that quite well resourced, and I think they might do well this year. And the best we can hope.
Swindon, not slugs there, aren't they?
Yeah, they are lazy little slugs there, but the best we can hope for is winning the league, because we're good enough to win the league. We've got good enough players to win the league, and that should be our target for this season.
Do we see like a 91-92 season? This is for Craig, looming on the horizon here. Sort of no expectation almost whatsoever going in the season and carrying all before us.
Who's the Steve Whitten? Could it possibly be Ollie Hawkins, who Mark with a C asks?
Great link.
he's been listening to other general football league pods, and
What?
apparently they're saying that Ollie Hawkins to Ipswich is an underrated signing. Do you agree? And are you concerned about his and Norwood's lack of pre-season?
I had a very sort of complimentary Hawkins email from a London colleague of mine, a Pompey fan, lives down in Portsmouth, Pompey fan, saying he was just unlucky because he just found himself in the pecking order behind, well, ironically, Ellis Harris and John Marquis last season. But again, the early sort of tweets you saw when he came, was one or two Portsmouth tweets on there saying good riddance. But this guy was saying no, by and large, when he played, he was a real asset to the side. Notwithstanding, did he not score the winning penalty in the Checker Trade Trophy or whatever? I believe he did. Notwithstanding that, but he said no. He reckons we've got a decent signing there.
Yeah, I also work with a couple of Pompey fans, and they were both pretty complimentary about him as well. He has got his limitations, but this is League One, for Christ's sakes, and we need that presence that we've been calling out for. He is that. But just a quick thing on that penalty. My mate said that he turned to his friend at Wembley ahead of that penalty and said, he's going to miss this. He doesn't strike the ball particularly well, which I think is quite remarkable for a centre forward to not strike the ball particularly well. But as it happened, he tucks it away beautifully.
Yeah.
Tim Pashley, quick question for you here, Dave. You probably know where this is going. Which game will generate the first DD3 crap?
Hang on, wait a minute. Let me have a look. Wait a minute. Bristol Rovers, September the 5th, the EFL Cup.
Yeah, we wouldn't mind crap to get out.
Good old Tim. Good old Tim. Tim's been with us since day one. It's the 6th season, like my good self. So fair play to Tim. Good on you, mate.
Yeah, and a fellow Southeast tractor boy.
He is, isn't he? Yeah, looking at those first few fixtures, the fixture list has been reasonably kind to us, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You'd think
does look that way.
You would think that come the end of September, we ought to have, if we've got any sort of, I say hope, if we're any sort of semblance of a decent season, we should be certainly looking at double figure point haul, I would have hoped, by the end of September. But who knows?
I'm going to tee you up one last time, Joe. The Ipswich Bean asks for your thoughts on whether we'll stick to this new style or whether a couple of poor performances would lead to 4-4-2 and James Norwood and Jackson being back up top together.
There is going to be a huge amount of pressure on Lambert to get results at the start of this season. And is he got enough job security to follow this plan through to fruition? I don't know.
Quickly, how quickly? I can't recall. We spoke earlier about the mad game at Reading when the fullbacks just went there, and it was. I know, and Mikey said about what is slightly different now because obviously the fullbacks can now collect it from the penalty box. But how swift and what was the reason? I can't recall that he abandoned that so quickly.
It was Norwich away.